Welcome to all of you, wherever you're viewing, and so grateful you're with us today. This is an exciting day for us.
Yes, it is. We're so grateful to have Joe Pressler with us, and we'll tell you more about him. Let him tell about himself because he's had an exciting experience on his mission, experiences being a missionary. And this guy, his family moved into our ward, but we go further back than that,
Yes,
right?
in fact, his grandpa and I were best friends in 4th and 5th grade. So how's that for a long ways back?
Yeah.
That's a couple of years ago, maybe a couple, right?
Just a few.
But he has had the most unique and wonderful experience. And some people really don't know about this opportunity on missions. So we're so excited to hear Joe share with us his experiences as an ASL missionary. Let us tell you a little bit about him, and then we'll let him tell also about himself.
He will be attending BYU in the fall. And this guy has a lot of special interests, and he's just fun to be around. And we've really enjoyed having him close and getting to know him and his family. So do you want to just tell us, Joe, about what it was like to get that mission call?
And why you were originally interested at all in ASL. I love that story. Can you share that with us?
No, yeah, getting that call was the greatest feeling ever. I was so happy because I've had a fascination with sign language my whole life. I don't have a specific memory of like my first time seeing like a deaf person or someone using sign language. It's not necessarily like a specific thing, but I just know like very young, just seeing people communicate with their hands, just like hands moving all around. I had no clue what it meant, but there's just something fascinating about it. It's like, that'd be really cool to learn. Really cool to learn sign language. But there weren't a lot of like formal opportunities to learn sign language like in school or anything. I feel like moving here to Utah, it's very common for high schools to offer sign language classes. And so a bunch of my friends would be like, yeah, out of curiosity, I took a semester of sign language. And I'm like, yeah, I did too. I did. And so like, it's just kind of like there in Tennessee where I grew up for most of my schooling, that wasn't an option. And so since it wasn't in school, I would have had to put forth a lot of effort to pursue it on my own. But then being a young rising teenager, I mean, I didn't care that much to go like look through like online opportunities and classes, whatever. Like I don't know. I didn't really know how to go forward. So it just kind of like stayed in the back of my mind. I always thought it was the coolest thing ever. Just like something I didn't understand. I wanted to understand it because I had no clue what was going on, but there's a fascination there. So it was after moving here to Utah, senior year of high school. I was in a pre-scorum lesson one Sunday. Our bishop, he had a brother who didn't know sign language, but got called on a sign language mission 30 years ago or something. And so to sort of set up a story that the bishop was going to connect to the principles of the lesson, he sort of brought up his brother just to set up the story. I don't remember what the story was. I don't remember what the lesson was. I don't remember anything other than the fact I was like, whoa, there are sign language missionaries. It makes sense thinking about it.
So cool.
But I had no clue. There were sign language missionaries. And just like growing up in an active family in the church, that's definitely a core attribute that you notice about missions is an opportunity to learn another language to go connect with people all around the world. So I was like, oh well, that could be a way to learn sign language. So from then, so it was probably about a year before I actually got my call. I got my call in October, then I left in December of 2022. So it's probably about a year before I found that out. And so I said a good handful of prayers just consistently throughout, committing myself. I was like, if you call me sign language, I will commit myself to put in the effort. I really want to learn this. I want to learn this, and I can use it to bless people in the field, and also when I'm back home in my future life to get to know sign. I think this would be so cool. And I don't know how else to pursue learning other than this. This makes sense. So please call me sign language, and I will do it. I will rise to the challenge. And so I said those prayers. And so it wasn't just off of that. It was also when I was putting in my mission papers. I mentioned that to Bishop Walker because he's the one who brought it up in the first place. And so Bishop's has like a little note section where they can add any kind of notes on your mission application as it gets sent into church headquarters. So he added that as a little note that there's a very high interest and willingness to commit to it and learn it. So then a few months later in October, getting my call, I opened it in private before I opened up in front of everyone else, but just sitting there in my dorm room at BYU and seeing it was like Washington Everett. I had no clue what that was. I assumed it was Washington State, but I also wasn't sure because I'm pretty sure they put states first, but I don't know formatting or see Washington Everett. But then you are assigned to preach the gospel in American Sign Language.
You're like, whoa!
Yeah, just so fun. I was like, yeah, let's go. I got it. And so then I knew that like I had commit myself in person. I had to commit myself because I don't know. I took 2 years of German in high school to fulfill the graduation requirement, but that was the only language experience I had. And I don't like blame German and stuff. It's sort of in my mind was just like learning new languages was just required a little more effort for me, which again, as a rising teenager, what teenager cares? And so I didn't have like experience, or I didn't necessarily have like good experience of really taking to learning a new language, but I knew that I had to commit myself. And then here I am. I feel like that is what happened. I feel like I was very blessed with all the opportunities the Lord set up both in the MTC and in the field to help me learn and help me practice. And I feel like I've really been able to see that blessing and now look forward to where to continue to use that.
You know, Joe, we've been reading and sharing with you earlier that section 90 of the Doctrine and Covenants, as well as lots of scriptures, but it says the fullness of the gospel will be preached unto every man in his own tongue and in his own language. This is an absolute example of the fulfillment of that prophecy. And the fact that you felt that for so long before, I don't think is just because you were interested. I think the Lord was prompting you in your personal life to help you get ready for a remarkable experience. And there's more to this than we know so far. Mm-hmm. What a remarkable example. And what we want to say to all our listeners, look what the Lord is doing to reach out across the world in every language. But this one is sensitive, caring about our hearing impaired brothers and sisters and wanting them to make sure they feel loved and connected. It's amazing. Yeah. Amazing to me. You might share with us you were talking a little about the experiences you had when you first got on your mission, and even the one in the MTC. I was kidding you about, do you close your eyes during prayer? I guess you don't. And you said what?
And I said, no, you keep your eyes open for prayer. Sort of what I was saying was that, and it was basically the whole time. I kind of got better about it by the end of the MTC, but the whole 6 weeks of the MTC, well, actually, no, not the whole 6 weeks. It was just in person because the 2 weeks, we did 2 weeks of Zoom classes at home, and then we spoke to each other. We started learning things like the alphabet and grammar principles. We spoke to each other on Zoom, but then the 4 weeks in person, on Zoom, they said, okay, when we come in person, we're not talking. Class is going to be silent and talking in sign language. And so that ended up being really helpful, but that was very intimidating because everyone else in the MTC had experience, and I was coming into another. So I was coming into it eager, but like I had no foundation. Like on the first day we did an alphabet game. I was like, I got to keep it real with you. I don't even know ABC. But so then getting into the end of the MTC, when you get there, I knew enough sign language to recognize when they said, okay, we're going to have our opening prayer, we're going to have our closing prayer. And it seemed like every single time for so long, just by default, I bow my head and I close my eyes, just like, okay, it's prayer time. And then go like 20, 30 seconds before I realized they're in the middle of the prayer, and I'd missed a whole bunch of the prayer. Yeah. Just out of habit. So it took the whole MTC to get used to that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh,
now you're going to get used to closing them again.
Yep.
So when you first got to this branch, you said it was getting kind of small. Yeah.
So I very briefly mentioned in that first story I told, I was originally called to the Washington Everett mission, which meant it was the city of Seattle, just like the Puget Sound area. It's because it was the Puget Sound Deaf Branch that covered that whole little sector of the Pacific Northwest. And so it had been the Puget Sound Deaf Branch for 40 plus years leading up. So I think it started like early 80s. But then it was December of 2022, which is when I started the MTC and I was still home. It was while I was in the MTC that the formal processes went through that average weekly attendance was down to like 3 people a week. And so it was low enough that they were bringing in like hearing Melchizedek priesthood holders from throughout the state to come support and come teach. The problem is there weren't a lot of hearing people that also had sign language expertise, and there's a lot of very heavy dependence on the missionaries for translation. And there's a whole lot there. So they stepped it down to the group level instead of a branch. So I went from a branch to a group while I was in the MTC. And that group was attached to, it was the Lake Forest Park Ward, is an English ward that met in the same building, because it was that those were the two groups that met in this one building when I was just one ward, one building. So then like leadership and sort of the organization was drawn upon from the hearing ward. And then us as missionaries, we just all met together, and so we got to interpret everything. And so that also sort of talking about the process of learning sign language, that getting thrown into the deep end of standing up in the stand next to the speaker, signing an hour of sacrament every single week for my whole mission, basically. That was a good learning experience. But yeah, no, it started out very small. It was that little sector, that Seattle. It was just happening. I found it interesting. It's happening with all the languages that were up there, the Spanish, English, the deaf members, just everyone. It seemed like people were just leaving Seattle. There's like a whole lot. So like there were a good handful of deaf members that were going inactive, because that happens everywhere. But there's also just like a mass move away. Like a lot of like the core, like knowledgeable deaf Melchizedek priesthood holders seem to be moving down to Utah or to Idaho or somewhere else to be close to their family, kind of thing. So to sort of come into that, that's what I was coming into, is just super small little group, and then a whole bunch of lists of deaf people that had gone inactive that you kind of heard of. And so our work was kind of cut out from us from right when I got there. I had never been a missionary before, so I didn't really know what to expect in the field, but that's kind of what I got right into. Is we have 3 to 4 deaf people coming to church. What can we do about that? It's kind of what I started my mission as.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you did some great things about that.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So you had been a baptism for 5 years in this branch?
Yeah. So in total, I was there for 20 months, I guess. I don't know the exact month math. It was most of my mission. I was there in Seattle. And so getting to be there consecutively for that long was really cool to see the growth again, because it was me and my companion. There were 2 other elders, so 4 elders together. And then there were 2 sisters. And so there were 6 ASL missionaries, and we were just assigned to the whole ward. So we did both English work and deaf work, just to the whole unit. But so having 3 companionships, 6 missionaries there, in that time, what I had heard is that about 5 years leading up to that. So I don't know what the years on that would be, but about 5 years, no baptisms. They really struggled to find deaf people who were interested, who wanted to grow their relationship with Jesus Christ, who wanted to find that sense of peace and of healing. It was really hard to find deaf people who were into it. It was easy to find deaf people who weren't interested, from what I heard. It was really hard to find deaf people who were. But then just from the hard work and the exercise of faith, us putting our shoulder to the wheel, getting at it, trying to work on ourselves as missionaries and really connecting with the members, and just all of the million tiny things that go in to missionary work, for the gathering of Israel. Just all the things that went in. We said between the 3 companionships, we saw 8 baptisms in the year of 2023.
Wow.
That's
yeah. So that was really good, because then that was new deaf people, and then we are also able to reach out and start ministering to a handful of inactive deaf members. We were able to get them to come back and rejoin the community, and just sort of really work on uniting ourselves as a deaf body of Christ. And so that was really cool. By the time we left, I think our weekly average was about 15 by the time I left my time in Seattle. So that was just a really, really special experience. Nothing that we could have done on our own. I just had a lot of experiences like that on my mission that really proved that I'm here to be in the right place, the right time, doing the right thing. But ultimately, these conversion experiences for other people, these really cool miracles that I get to see, are by no direct result of all of my effort. It's all things that the Lord has been working for longer than I've been aware, to set these people up, and to I just bless the deaf people in Seattle.
Oh,
I think about Alma. He said, I just want to be an instrument in the Lord's hands. And the instrument has to be there for him to be able to work through that instrument to make it happen. And you and your companions, that's a miracle. That's a missionary miracle story. And that branch will never be the same.
That's right.
That's so exciting.
Well, it is amazing to me, too, what the church is doing for the hearing impaired and the deaf. And if you go to asl.churchofjesuschrist.org And it takes you to the gospel library. And I've just been amazed. Everything from General Conference to the scriptures to all of the church manuals, all in ASL. And it's beautiful. I like just to turn them on and just watch. It's beautiful to watch American Sign Language, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It was.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that was just a very big blessing in the field. That's what we do for pretty much every lesson that we would have. Me, Mike, and Manny, and I, we'd because they had those resources translated, sort of like showing scriptures, to have them read scriptures, the Old English. The Old English is hard for me. The Old English is hard for a lot of educated people who are being introduced to the gospel of Jesus Christ, especially for deaf people, that there's a connection to English, but sign language is not exactly one and the same with English. There's a connection, but it's not like the foundation necessarily. So like the Old English of scriptures can be very difficult, at least with all the people that I work with. At least with all of them, it was kind of difficult to be handed that and read it. But then with General Conference talks and the scriptures, it's really cool that since the church had been working to translate them, we were able to, we'd find scriptures or we'd find quotes from General Conference, and we just screen record it on our phones. We get like 60 seconds of our so we'd be in the lesson, we just pull out our camera roll, and then we'd hit play, and then we'd watch the scripture together. So then I didn't have to know it, and then they didn't have to know the English of it, because there's an interpreter there, and so we just show them. So I was like using scriptures in our teaching.
That is so great.
That's amazing. So what people don't know is that sometimes lately, ASL missionaries don't stay in the same mission. And you didn't.
Same area, yeah.
You got transferred to a whole different area. Do you want to tell us about that? Because a little difference between Seattle and San Diego, right?
Yeah, a little difference. I went from the Canadian border to the Mexican border. That was a new program. It was a pilot program that they started in the North America West area, so just like the West Coast up to Alaska and Hawaii. Except Alaska and Hawaii didn't have deaf units. So in this case, that part of the area was excluded. It was basically the West Coast. Because in the olden days of ASL missionaries, you'd get sent to, you were just called to the whole country, and they'd stick you in like a major city that had deaf work to do for about like 6 months, and then you would it was expected you'd move around the country, go wherever. But then I've kind of started to hear inklings of ideas of why things shifted. I don't know exactly when or why the transitions were, but then it transitioned to where you were just called to a mission that had a deaf branch within its borders, and then you would stay there the whole time. Logistically, it's a bit cleaner than flying missionaries around the country every 6 months. But then to sort of adjust with the scale, we had like a big Zoom meeting with the area presidents in the over North America West. Sort of what they were saying was there's a certain element of diversity that is not there if you just go and stay in the same deaf branch for your whole mission. So for the sake of language skills, and the members you interact with and the friends you get to teach with, and I guess just like things that you have to do and things you have to figure out and rely on the Lord for to figure out the work in that specific area, all these things, to try and diversify and therefore enrich the experience and all these things. They were opening up there were 7 branches within North America West along the West Coast. And they said that missionaries can now transfer between still up to the mission presidents, but transfer between these branches. And so that was from top to bottom. That was us in Seattle, so Washington Everett mission. It was the San Jose mission for the Bay Area in California. No, I skipped Portland. There's Portland, Oregon. What else was there? There's Los Angeles, California, Anaheim, California, Riverside, California, and San Diego, California.
Wow.
So five in California, 1 California, and then Portland and Seattle. So they opened that up. They're like just within North America West, and not over the whole country, within North America West, to try and diversify these experiences and therefore enrich our missionaries. But then not worry about sending people over the country, whatever. They set that up. That started last April. And then it was a pilot program. They're going to run for 6 months from April to, it was like September, October, whenever. So like, we're going to do it for these 6 months. We're going to assess at the end, see if this is having the effect we want, if we want to continue. And it did continue. We didn't hear anything officially back from them or from anyone involved in the presidency. But I guess the fact that we didn't hear anything was our sign that it was just going to keep rolling as it was. Yeah. And so when I first heard the news, I really didn't want to transfer. because I had been on my mission for a little over a year at that point. So I'd spent at least half of my mission there in Seattle. And I spent that whole time really digging my roots down in there. The members, both hearing and deaf, and the friends, both hearing and deaf, that we were working with, and the missionaries and mission president, just everything. I had really grown into that, and I had really grown a lot as a person, as a disciple of Jesus Christ. And so I initially wasn't a huge fan. I was like, no, thank you. I'll stay here. I'll finish on because that was my expectation. Was from my mission there. But then it was about August of this last year. I got the news that I was going to transfer down to San Diego and finish out. I only had about 4 months left at that point. So I finished out my 4 months in San Diego, and it ended up being a really good experience. I was not assigned to the deaf branch in San Diego while I was there. I was assigned to an English ward called the La Mesa ward down in San Diego. I loved that place. It was so fun. I spent my whole 4 months in that one English ward, and it was just the greatest thing ever. I had not deaf companions. I had ASL signing companions at the time. So I still got to use sign language like with my companions, and I got to participate in the deaf social media and the events that were going down in San Diego. And it was just a new, fresh start, I guess. It was, once again, another enriching experience. The Lord is definitely aware that I would benefit from a change of scenery, I guess, a change of friends, a change of people I was interacting with. And so then that's how I finished out my mission. So I very unique experiences with sign language, with movie missions, and with unique experiences. But yeah, no, definitely all things that I can see in retrospect that helped me grow.
Wow. And yeah, I would love it. We would love it if you would like to share your testimony in sign language. Would you like to do that?
You can say anything else that we can understand first if you want to.
Oh, sorry, say it again.
I say you can say anything else if you want to first that we will understand.
No, I'll just let you feel it. Let you feel it out.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Amen.
Amen.
That was beautiful.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. And to all our viewers, share this. It is such an example of God's love for all of his children. And you are such an example, Joe, to all of us. We just love and appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Please share.
Everybody
have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joe.